So you, in that moment, on that particular day, took that test. That test indicated that there was a high likelihood you were in a depressed state or dealing with depression.
Mhm.
How did you make the connection that that must have been around for so long? Because some people would assume that just means I'm in a bad place right now. I just gotta, I got, if I brush my teeth, I feel better. How did you make the connection that this was a part of a legacy of the decisions and the actions in your life?
I started asking questions, Bo. Um, Started asking questions. I sat back and I considered. I prayed about it. I thought about it. And I started asking questions from the people that were around me, particularly my elders. And I asked my grandfather, who was still with us at that time, um, I said, man, I took a test and it indicates that I may be suffering from depression. Do you have any insight on that from my childhood? And he told me something that I never knew. He said, son, I remember when your mom and your dad broke up, you were about 4 years old, and you got more quiet and you got more solitary. And there were times where you would want to just be alone and you seemed sad. And I would go out into the city because your dad hadn't come around for maybe 6 months or so. And I would go out in the city and I would find your father and I would bring him to the house, make him come to the house. And he would hang out with you a little while, maybe take you out to grab something to eat, drop you off, and you would brighten up for a few days. And then and that became a cycle that you were going through. And I was able from that conversation with my grandfather to get to the genesis point of that struggle in my life, and then work forward from there. So that's how I found out.
Were you able to name that thing? And I don't want to lead the witness here, but what was it about that situation you think was the genesis of this kind of continuous level or undercurrent of depression? What was it about that?
A lot of things took place almost simultaneously at that era at 4 years of age. There was the domestic violence that was going on in my house prior to the breakup. There was the fact that my mom was a very hardworking mom, and I was with older grandparents at that time. I was the only child at that time. So when my dad was removed from the situation, I think that jarred me in a lot of ways. And
If the 4-year-old you were here on the call, what words would he use to describe what you felt at that age?
um,
If he had your vocabulary now, what would he say he was feeling?
disillusionment, confusion, hurt, disappointment, fear,
Yeah.
all of those things.
Let me ask you about a couple other words. I am going to lead the witness a little bit here. What about guilt? Did you feel like? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I'm sure that guilt would play a part in it because you ask yourself as a child, is it something that I did? Is it because of
Yeah.
me? And having worked with people through these kinds of things over the years as I've progressed, I know that that's one of the things. Guilt is definitely a part of it.
Yeah. And that guilt manifested in a young mind typically spills over into this lesser esteem that they have for themselves. Maybe I'm not worthy to be loved. Maybe I'm not good enough for my daddy and my mommy to stay around. Maybe. And usually that guilt is manifested in some other ways. Do you
I tell
think
you,
that? Go ahead.
there, there's another word that I've come to understand over the years that describes the psychological processes that I went through and the assumptions that I made at 4 years old. Maybe love ain't real. Maybe that's just that's just talk. So there was a cynicism I think that started at that nascent time to grip my mind and to render suspicious and cynical about the existence of this fidelity, this love, this you know, the whole construct of family and everything. It made me cynical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like there's no Santa Claus. Well, I'm just saying, I totally get that. It's like in a young mind, it's like, well, wait a minute. If those examples, those folks who taught me love most closest to me, if it doesn't work for them, right? Not will it work for me, but was it really real? Right. And therefore, is it something that I should subscribe to going forward? But in a young, especially in a young adolescent mind, but any mind, as you work through that, you don't have the answers, but society keeps saying, but this is the way. Yeah, I don't know how else to feel about it, but well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my family? I.e., depressional thoughts, right? Like I can't figure this out, and I don't have the tools to move forward. Wow, that's deep.
Bowski, you made a heck of an assertion there when you talk about, you know, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, all these things at that age, you know, you're finding out is all nonsense. You know, it's just it's not true. So so I think that just, you know, got on steroids with me at that very young age. And I think that, you know, young man wanting to be like his father, even though he might not want to be like his father, you got those kinds of things going on where you want to be like him, but you don't want to be like him. My father was a womanizer. So you know, this in my journey, I've wrestled with that same spirit, you know, of womanizing, you know, and being cynical about love and being selfish, you know, and self-centered and dismissive of other people's feelings, you know, in intimate relationships. And so those have been some of the struggles that I think, along with the depression, came out of that. So
I'm gonna toss out one more word about that childhood experience. If I say the word abandonment, what does that mean to you?
Oh yeah, I got to figure this out the best I can.
Yeah,
and you know, trust is broken. You know, the beginning of any relationship is trust. And then there was all these other things that took place during that same time that that caused me to be damaged in terms of trust.
Yeah,
you know, and to see trust as something else that, you know, you always got to have a knife in your pocket just in case. You know?
Trust but confirm and defend.
I got my
Boy.
And I ain't afraid of you.
Right.
I will cut you.
You're not gonna get me again. That's what we're not gonna do, right?
At the first rearing of his head, you cut.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I know where this is going. I know where this is going. So
and I've seen that. Look, and I've seen it from somebody closest to me.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not gonna trust you with it.
Not at all.
Know?